Hey true learners, it's me, Miss G, your Math Matters tutor with TACC. Welcome to our first ever episode of Math Matters. And most of you know me from being your teacher in the past or your tutor during the summer online due to the pandemic. And today I just got this idea after talking to a parent that maybe I should offer um, you know little videos to support students who don't have the time to meet with me during the week, or life happens and they might be scrambling to get their homework finished or something like that, and they need a little assistance with some of their math problems. So today's math problem comes from an awesome tutee of mine. She is an Audubon student. She goes to Audubon Middle School in Los Angeles, and she is working on percentages. And so I'm going to model a problem for you guys, for her, and for anyone who's watching. I'm going to use numbers that I think most of us can manipulate easily, meaning you can solve this problem in your head, even if you don't know much about percentages. So again, this is my first time, so bear with me. You're going to see some pretty horrible lighting, but I'll hopefully get better at this. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so the problem I'm going to model tonight, is 50% of $10. Okay, yes, you can see everything, great. All right, so 50% of $10. The first thing to know about percentages, the first thing that I know and understand is that a percentage is just an amount out of 100 parts. Okay? You could think of this first dot here, this top dot, as the amount, or this 50 actually would be the amount, out of the the lower dot is the number underneath that fraction bar, 100. So 50% really represents 50 out of 100. Okay? That's what 50% means. So 45% would mean 45 out of 100. Okay? When we are solving percentage problems, when you see the word of, that translates or converts or changes, okay, to this multiplication symbol, okay, or timesing, as the little kids like to say. Timesing, anyway. Sorry, little kids, but it's so cute when you say that. So we're going to multiply 50 hundredths by 10. I'm not going to carry the dollar symbol down. It's not important until the end. We, by the way, I think we said, hopefully I mentioned, if you did this in your head, you would be able to solve 50%. If we know, most people know that 50% represents half of something. So 50% is half of $10. So half of $10 is equal to $5. We already know that. But I want to model this for you so that if you didn't already know what 50% of 10 was, you can solve it, you can calculate it, right? And do the process here. So I've brought down our 10, I've converted the of word into the multiplication symbol, and I've converted this percentage into a fraction form. Another thing before we head on further down into this process is I recommend converting your whole number into a fraction so that we're multiplying fraction by fraction, okay? And you do that by writing a fraction bar and placing a 1 underneath it. Why do we do that? A lot of kids were like, okay, teacher said I should do that. I don't get it. Well, this fraction bar is really a division symbol in disguise. 10 divided by 1 is what? It's 10. So 10 divided by 1 is 10, so I haven't changed the value of that 10. Okay. Another way to think about it is like if you were to actually model this with pictures, the number underneath the fraction bar, the denominator, the number that's down under that fraction bar, represents how many parts your whole cookie is cut up into. Well, your cookie is cut up into one part, right? And let's say I have the whole cookie. So that's the whole cookie, right? That's one. But I have 10 of those whole cookies. So I need to draw 9 more. There's 5 now. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I have 10 whole cookies. So that's what 10 over 1 represents. 10 wholes. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, great. Okay, great. It's working out. Okay. So now that we have 2 fractions, next thing you need to know is how do we multiply fractions? Sometimes multiplying fractions, not sometimes multiply. Look, you multiply fractions the same way you multiply regular numbers, sort of. Except that you're going to only multiply the top numbers, the numerators. Those are the numbers on top. Okay, so your numerator is 50 times 10. You solve for that. If you're worried and you're thinking, I don't know how to multiply 50 by 10, I need a calculator. You do not, okay? All you need to do is know this little trick. You look at that first digit that is not a 0. These first digits, 5 and 1, multiply those numbers first. And 5 times 1 is 5. Okay? After that, you look at the numbers that are zeros, and you count how many there are. 1 and 2. And make sure you have that same number of zeros at the end of your number in your product. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. The product is 500. 50 times 10 is 500. I know that this could look kind of busy for some people and could be confusing, so I'm going to erase it. But I did want to teach that trick for those of you who may have been a little anxiety, a little nervous and concerned when you realize that you have to multiply 50 by 10, okay? Now that we've multiplied our numerators, we're going to, let's make sure we have our fraction bar. I just want this to look nice and neat, as neat as possible. This is my first time, guys. Maybe I've said that like 100 times by now. Now we're going to multiply our denominators. The denominators are the numbers that are down under that fraction bar. So now we're going to multiply 100 by 1. 100 times 1 is 100. And again, those of you who get fearful when you see large numbers, remember our rule when we have like multiples of 10 or numbers that end with zeros. We first look at the digits that are not zeros. 1 times 1 is 1. And we have 2 zeros here and no zeros there. So we just need to make sure we have the same number of zeros on both sides of our equation. 1, 2, 1, 2. We did it. Okay? And again, I'm going to erase those check marks because they might be bothersome to some of you. All right. So now we're almost at the finish line. 500 over 100. We read this fraction as 500 hundredths. Anytime you have a number underneath this fraction bar, you have the th sound when you read or say the fraction. Name it. 500 hundredths, because hundredths are little parts of one whole thing. 100 parts. It's not 100 bananas. It's one banana cut into 100 pieces. Makes each little piece is a 100th of that banana. Okay, sorry, I'm getting in real teacher mode and we're almost at 10 minutes. So next step is dividing. This fraction bar is actually a division symbol. It means 500 divided by 100. Again, don't freak out, guys. All this means is how many hundreds can you make out of 500 things? How many groups of 100 can you make out of 500? So if it looks better this way, remember I told you it's division, you can rewrite it as 100 over there and the 500 under the little house. 500 divided by 100. How many hundreds can fit in 500? So one group of 100 is 100, two groups is 200, three groups is 300, four groups is 400, five groups is 500. I could make 5 groups of 100. 5 times 100 gives me 500, right? So that means that 500 divided by 100 is 5. Okay, if that's too much for some folk, and maybe I was quite confusing in how I explained that, the trick is when you see zeros above and below that fraction bar, you just cancel out the zeros. So there's a 0 here and the 0 right above it, cancel those out. There's a 0 here, the denominator, and a 0 above it, cancel that out. Now you're just left with 5 divided by 1. Sure, that was more simple than how I explained it initially. Okay, 5 divided by 1 is 5. And like I said, we already knew that 50% or half of 10 was 5. And here we found that to be true. I hope this helped you.